Decision on whether to choose an original cloth or a hybrid cloth is a very personal one. It's one that I'd like you to make as easily as possible, and therefore I price the cloths the same in their original and hybrid versions. So you'll be able to make a decision based on your needs rather than on what my price is. The only difference in the price when you're considering a hybrid versus the original is shipping costs, and that's not something that I control. I'm dealt the hand that I'm playing with in terms of what the shipping companies charge me, and so sometimes the hybrid is slightly more expensive than the original to ship. Now, aside from that, the difference between the original and the hybrid is the original cloths are favored by those people who are watching every single ounce. They're typically hiking miles into the wilderness, and they're worried about keeping not only the size of the cloth small, but the weight at an absolute minimum. And they're not really worried about discomfort of any sort, so those are the folks that would order the original cloth. Those individuals who order the hybrid cloths are typically working in studio environments or close to their vehicles, or they're not concerned about weight at all. Or more importantly, they're also worried about comfort. Working under the cloth for prolonged periods, the hybrid fabrics breathe versus the coated fabric of the original, which does not breathe. So all considerations, but I want you to be able to make a decision based on what your needs are, not on the price. Now, when I talk about the breathability of the fabrics that I construct my cloths of, I'm talking about something slightly different than what the common understanding of breathability is. There's a whole outdoor recreation industry out there that's marketing clothing that's quote-unquote breathable. And often those fabrics are a coated fabric, something coated with a rubberized coating that is what I would describe as permeable, i.e. moisture passes through, but it's not something you could hold up to your face and easily draw breath through. And that's very similar to the first cloths that I use to construct the original black jacket, and that's a black and silver fabric, and the silver is actually a coating on the black fabric, and that coating fills in all the gaps in the fabric. So if I try to breathe through it, I can't draw breath through it. It's great for waterproofness, but in a hot environment or humid environment, I had users who complained that the non-breathability of this fabric amplified the hot and humid conditions when they were under the cloth. So they asked me to develop a cloth that used breathable fabrics. And so I looked long and hard and found these fabrics, this black and white sandwich of microfibers. And this fabric is breathable. It's a woven fabric that's not coated. And if I put it up to my face, I can draw breath through it and exhale through it. It's not something I'd take to the gym and work out with over my face, but it is a breathable fabric, much like cotton. The weave is much tighter on this than it is in cotton typically, but it's also really nice against the skin, has a really wonderful feel. So if you are working in hot and humid conditions, this would be a much better choice than the silver and black fabric, which amplifies the humidity rather than keeps you comfortable. Let's look at the water-resistant characteristics of the two fabrics. The original fabric is actually waterproof, and you can see that water is not going to get through that. It's a coated fabric, the coating a rubberized paint that fills in all the pores in a very tightly woven fabric. I will say though that the seams of the black jacket are not sealed like tents and waterproof clothing, but the fabric itself is waterproof. In comparison, the hybrid fabric is what they call a water-resistant fabric. You can see the water beads up and runs off on this fabric as well. They often make lightweight rain shells out of this fabric. But the big difference between the hybrid and the original is that the hybrid fabric breathes. Air can actually pass through this very easily. If I put it up to my face, I can breathe through it. But you can see the water tends to bead up and run away. But it is not waterproof, and eventually enough time spent outside, especially in a really light rain, you may find that it takes in some of that moisture. So to put these claws into their storage sack, it's really simple. I just usually fold it into thirds like so and just roll it up. And the black bags are oversized on purpose, not only to block the light when you're using them for that purpose, but make it easy to put the cloth inside. So loosely stored, this is about the size of a hybrid 4x5, 5x7. Now I can get the claws much smaller than that. In fact, when they are shipped to you, the hybrid 4x5, 5x7 ships in a small flat rate box. So that's about the minimum size that you'll get a hybrid 4x5, 5x7. The original cloth, though, you can get to much smaller size. I'd say about the size of a softball if you really compact it. So very packable. I like to talk about them as they would be used. Typically you're not going to spend every minute getting every last bit of air out of them. So the average size of the two claws looks something like this.